Okay, it is 1:30 and it is time for us to begin. So thank you so much for making time today to join this webinar. We're really excited to bring you what we hope are really helpful insights and some solutions to challenges that we see sales and revenue facing teams having now and will continue to have in 2025. So welcome to Unlock Smarter Selling in 2025 without another investment. My name is John. I'm happy to walk you through our content today. So with that, here's what we're going to cover. We'll probably do this in 15 to 20 minutes. We're going to talk a little bit about the challenge. And again, I'm John from Nalpeiron. We work with a lot of different SaaS and software companies um, where we see what those challenges are and what they're up against. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about why it's important, what the stakes are. And then lastly, of course, we want to solve some of those challenges. So what can you do, right, as an organization or as a team that's looking to grow revenue to overcome those revenue challenges that we're seeing from folks? So let's get started. A little bit about me, so you know a little bit about my background. I'm on the product team here at Nalpeiron. That's our organization name. Um, Products, probably more known, right? Zen Title and now Zen Gain, which I'll talk about toward the end of the webinar. But I have a lot of experience in product management, going back a dozen years or so. Worked with some pretty big groups with Intuit, Dun& Bradstreet, Sugar CRM, amongst others. And before that, and it's really applicable and relevant to today's topic, I was tasked with helping sales, marketing, customer success teams. And from an operational standpoint, how can we get them the tools? How can we get those teams the data, the tools, the processes that they need to close more deals and to better support their customers, right? Which was obviously top of mind at the organization. So it was a weird transition going from business operations to product, but it was also a good one. And that now I can help build products for the same, for those same roles that I used to be in. So let's start with the challenge. I think this will be interesting, right? Because we're in a very interesting time where there's a lot changing right beneath our feet. And if you're in sales and watching this or attending today, you probably know what I'm talking about. The role that you've been, familiar with and possibly doing for a while is changing, and it's changing quite dramatically. Although what I hear from a lot of sales reps or sales managers, leaders of sales teams, the quotas and the expectations are not changing, right? So while the landscape does and the technology does and the way buyers buy, right, all of that stuff seems to be changing. Quotas are not. There's still an expectation that we'll close deals in 2025, right? Um, and I think the role and how we perform it as sales groups is hard too, right? So used to be more reliant on that human touch of happy hours and dinners and creating those connections and understanding the needs of customers um, in a way that was a little more familiar. Well, now it's different, right? Now it's more about data driven and revenue centric approaches, right? And that came from a quote from Forbes, um, where we're looking now at how do we usher forth the customer into this, the next phase of the contract or the opportunity, and how do we do that being data driven. I personally, just to spoil a little bit as to what we'll talk about today, I think both of those approaches are needed still. I think we're probably doing less of the former and more of the latter, but both are really, really vital to a salesperson's success and by extension, a customer's success. So if we talk about that changing role and some of the trends that we're seeing, one is Gen AI, and it's our reliance on using Gen AI to help us. And we're seeing, again, I'm trying to pull quotes here to validate some of these trends that we're seeing out in the wild, right? So 57% of businesses plan to increase investments in AI-driven sales in the coming year, right? So the majority of companies are looking to utilize more AI, right? And that goes back to that trend we're seeing, that transitional period of let's be more data driven and let's rely on the data and some of the models that we're building and predictive analytics um, to help us in that sales process. That's the first one. The second one is focused high touch engagements, an emphasis on the word focused, right? So 43%, now these are consumers, but 43% of consumers around the world would opt for a buying process that involves no interaction with sellers. All these quotes, by the way, come from the same source that you can see below. And I think, what most of us are experiencing is that the consumer sale is starting to resemble the B2B sale as well, and vice versa, right? Those two things are coming together. People want to shop on their own. People want to go through that sales cycle in a different way, almost as if they were consumers. So what we're seeing now is that there is a large portion of buyers who are saying, you know what, I'd rather not interact with sales, which obviously, as a selling team or as a seller makes it quite challenging to figure out how are we going to get around that? What's my role in this? How can I be helpful if folks would rather not even interact with me? We'll talk about that though. And we'll offer a solution that I think you're going to like. And then a focus on automation. So yes, that overlaps with the first, that overlaps with this data-driven theme that we've been talking about. 53% of companies that increased automation in their sales process reported increased revenues. So there is a correlation there of, hey, we put in more automation and we are seeing increased revenues. Um, and teams are going to continue to do that, right? Which is, again, really leaning heavily on that Salesforce automation piece, which has been happening for obviously several years, but more and more of that as we head into 2025. And what are the stakes? Like, why does all this stuff matter? Um, well, frankly, budgets are going up in terms of the SaaS market and what folks are willing to spend. Believe it or not, and I know it's been a topsy-turvy couple years for tech or maybe SaaS in general, but it is selling season. People do have their checkbooks out, um, looking to spend more. Some of that is fueled by obviously AI and looking for the best technology there that can help the team. But I would say overall, right, folks want that advantage. Selling teams, I'll say any revenue facing team, right? We're seeing a lot in the customer success world as well. They want that advantage. And what a lot of teams are finding is, unlike the old days where it may have been about re-engineering your sales process or finding the best personnel in the world and looking at spending from those angles, now it's all about how do I use data to help our team be more successful. And I think that's important. And I think, by the way, this is a good slide, right? If you're a seller or you're customer success or you're someone who's tasked with either keeping a client or bringing in new clients or expanding client accounts, this is good. This means people actually do have budgets, do have propensity to spend money in this upcoming year, which is why we're having this webinar. We want to help you with that. And one of the things that we think can help solve this problem and get the teams over the hump um, is revenue intelligence. So if we look at the world of automation, which you're seeing in this diagram as kind of that green box, and you're looking at the human engagement aspect of when does a seller make that call? When does a seller send the message or that email, a personalized email to the client saying, hey, I want to help. I think now is a good time. Revenue intelligence, right? I'm using that category here um, purposefully because I think, well, especially the intelligence part, right? How can we be smarter around revenue events that are going to cause us to pick up the phone and call the customer and not be disrupting their day, right? We want to be able to read the intent of the customer or even just know the intent of the customer without having to always ask them. And that's where revenue intelligence can play a huge role and it can be a major factor in helping teams hit their revenue goals. And frankly, help teams engage with customers in a better way and make those conversations more relevant. So that is that connecting tissue, right? Revenue intelligence can take automation, right? And all the things that go with, all right, we're customers finding things on their own. We're going to send them some educational content through our marketing channels. We're going to do all these things that next best action. We're going to help the customer along in their journey. And some of that's not going to involve me at all as a seller. But trust me, you still need the human engagement part too. At the end of the day, it is people selling to people. So how can we figure out the right balance there? The anecdote, here's the best news, right? Actually, the fact that it's selling season is probably the best news. This is right up there, though. The really good news for you is that you probably have the tools you need. You probably at least have the data that you need. And in a SaaS world, right, what the customer is typically paying for or looking into paying for, right, or kicking the tires on is a product, is a service, is something that they're going to get value out of. And whether you're doing a trial, right? Whether you're doing a POC, whether you've got a customer that uses your product today and you just want to maintain that customer, right? Maybe you just want to increase their account a little bit, or maybe you want to upgrade them to that next tier. You don't need a lot of AI. You don't need to go build a large learning model or anything like that. We're not suggesting that today. We think, right, that might be good too, but we think the data that you need is already at your disposal, which is why in the title of our webinar, no additional revenue, no, I'm sorry, no additional investment needed. So what we're saying here is that if you use the first party data that you have at your fingertips in the best way possible, you can now start to engage with customers in a better way. And as a result, affect your bottom line and hit your quotas. And that has to be exciting. So what do I mean by this, right? Some of it is I'm kind of up in the ether talking about these high level topics. Let me give you some examples of areas where your first party data can help you um, explore or maybe even unlock conversations that you should be having. So how do my customers use my product? Are they getting all the value that they should from the product? We all know that in a lot of cases they don't. You just built a new feature, and despite all the go-to-market and launch efforts that your team put in, customers still aren't even finding it, right? People ignore emails, people ignore um, different things, different communications that you're sending out. So how do my customers use my product today? Are they getting all the value? And if they're not, well, this is great. As a seller or as a customer success rep, I can be, at the end of the day, I want to be helpful. I actually want to help customers. I want to help them. I want to create value before I can capture value. So with that, right? If I know where my customers are using the product or not using it, I can go have a healthy, relevant conversation that's going to matter. Are customers getting value from the trial or POC? It's a little bit different, right? Yes, it's still using the product, but I might know the milestones that are needed for a trial to be successful. Maybe I want them to invite other users into that trial. Are they doing that? I'm guessing today you don't even know, right? You could go ask, maybe you have to run a couple queries or ask the engineering team to go dig through the database to get that information, but it's hard to find out. Are customers using the full breadth of our product offering, right? Um, has my customer adopted the product appropriately? We've all been there. You close the deal, then you find out, toward the end of their first year, first year of contract, that they never even adopted the product appropriately, and now they're a churn risk. Well, wait a minute. I don't want to find that out on day, 300. How do I find that out on day 15? Because that's actually when it matters. And if a customer hasn't adopted it, right, whether it be myself or someone else on the team, let's reach out and be helpful. And then would customers benefit from other solutions of ours? That's a big one too. Obviously, that's going to affect, your customer value, lifetime value of the customer, and all that good stuff. But let's talk about the benefit, right? Would customers actually benefit from going up a tier? Are there signals within the data that say, you know what, this customer is actually on the wrong tier? They should be on premium and not standard or whatever it might be. Okay. These are just a few of the many examples um, of key insights that's almost hidden in the data today, but it's there. So, what's the solution? Well, you've got your first party product data. I've purposely made that a black box because I think for a lot of teams, they're they're separated from it, right? There's some kind of wall between the product data and how your customers use the product and the revenue facing teams, unfortunately, right? Maybe not all of it, but I think at least all of the insights that you need typically aren't available to you. So let's aggregate it. Let's filter it. Let's prioritize that data, right? And maybe there is some, modeling we do on top of that. We could, but typically I think teams know, hey, we want our best customers log in once a week or once a month or or 10 times a day, right? But we know our healthy customers look like this and our unhealthy customers sort of look like everything else. And we want to get our unhealthy customers to look like healthy customers. Okay. But before we can do that, we need to know, we just need to have clarity. What does this customer look like from a pure product usage perspective? And if we can look at that on a customer level or even on an end user level, and then pick out the signals, not the noise, right? Maybe some customers are just rolling along. It's nice to know, but I don't need to know that for today. I want to start my day as a seller by reaching out to those customers that either could use more product or could use a little more education on how to use the product or whatever, right? Maybe they just need a little bit of human intervention here to get them through that trial. Maybe they're stuck. And I'm happy to get the right people on a call to do that. And that's what the gold is, right? At the top right of the screen is signals for sellers. Hey, here are things that are going to matter to you. Maybe it's just a few things a week. Maybe it's 10 things a day. These are signals that you should act upon. And if a seller, right, or customer success, right, revenue facing teams have these signals, it's a gold mine because now you're so much closer to the customer just through the data. And that allows you to, again, unlock and make available or reach out to a customer and make yourself available to have a really, really interesting and healthy conversation with them. So what we advise many teams to do is get the help of your engineering team. Aggregate, make sense of that first party product data and somehow get it into your hands as a revenue facing team. Don't segregate it. It's really important. Okay, here's where I pitch one solution to you that we think is going to be helpful for many teams, right? So it's our new product here. It's called ZenGain. You're seeing a sneak preview of it now. And we look at that customer journey through all four stages, right? Acquire as they're evaluating the product, adopt as they're getting a sense of, okay, am I onboarding correctly? Retain as your retention machine and engine, and grow is where you're looking for upsell, upgrade opportunities. And within each company, you get an idea of what's their overall health look like? How are they using the product? How is each person using the product? How have they looked over time, right? Which is what you're seeing now. You can see it by renewal dates, right? Those are integrating with the CRM system. And you're getting a really crisp look into how customers are doing using the product. And that can lead to all sorts of conversations and opportunity for you and your team. And again, this is our new product, ZenGain, not yet available for sale, but we are starting a beta program. And we'd like to invite everyone to that. There are no strings attached. I want to start with that. We're not asking for a credit card. We are just asking for your commitment to try out the product for a few months and give us feedback. And ideally, right, and we've built it so that you can actually make more money and close more customer deals by using this product. So absolutely free. We're calling it Cohort 1. Starts in January 2025, next month. And what else? Work with our team. Work with myself, some of our engineers, folks on our customer success team. and each other, right? So we want to bring a group together, a very small group. We're only taking 10 customers now. So, and some of those spots are filled. So if you'd like to join this, again, no strings attached, right? You'll be able to use the product. And I think it's a good way to kick off the new year. And you can see the URL here, zengain.com/beta. We would love to have you be part of that and love to help you um, be successful with your selling in 2025. That's all we have for you today. I don't see any questions, but thank you again for making time, for being here, and we really appreciate it. Looking forward to chatting soon. Thanks.